What's up, Halas Huddlers? Are the Chicago Bears really interested in trading for a defensive tackle that could change the face of this defense for 2026 and beyond? We talk about that and dive into another full mock draft in this episode. I'm Rob Schwartz with Bear Goggles On. I have no one with me tonight. However, we're going to break down a recent CBS mock draft that came out last week. It seems to me as though many of these national guys just aren't paying enough attention to this team in particular and the specifics of what the defensive scheme looks like, players that fit what Ben Johnson wants, that Dennis Allen wants, and they're putting player names out there that I just can't sign off on. And we're going to talk about that today and dive in round by round. And then we're also going to talk about the rumors going on right now. Look, Dexter Lawrence has supposedly demanded a trade from the New York Giants. He is not happy. He's coming off a down year where he only had a half a sack. That being said, that doesn't actually show exactly how his season went. He was still one of the better defensive tackles in the league last year. And he's 28 years old. Does that move the needle for you? Should the Chicago Bears trade for him? We're going to talk about two possible trade scenarios in that regard. I should say one rumor and then one trade scenario that was in an SI article that I read as well. But let's dive into the CBS mock draft first. Let's get into that. Before we do, please, first of all, let me apologize. I know we haven't had a lot of content in the last week. I've been ill. I've been fighting horrible Crohn's pain. Bob was on vacation for spring break, and Justin, just as an educator, went back from spring break into the full swing of things. So he's been dealing with a lot as well. But more content will be coming. Again, I apologize for that, but we will get back into it. Also, I'm going to throw this out there. No one has to actually do anything with this. My wife and I are running for charity in 2027. I'm going to put a link in the description. It is to fight childhood cancer, pediatric cancer. It's called Cannonball for Kids Cancer. We are trying to donate up to $4,000 for the charity between now and I think our deadline is like the end of November, somewhere around there. But we're hoping to meet that goal well before then. So if you're interested in supporting our channel in that regard, if you want to head down to the description, check out that link and donate. It could be $5, $10, or even if you can't donate money, if you could just share the link on your social media pages, maybe just spread the word around and let's fight pediatric cancer. Unfortunately, it doesn't get the funding that a lot of other cancers, charities and causes do receive. So we wanted to put this forward. This is, we've been running marathons. I've been running marathons now for multiple years. And we're just trying to put a good cause behind it versus me just running for running, right? Let's put a cause behind it. And if you feel comfortable, please hit that link, please share, donate, whatever you want to do. It'll be in the description. All right, let's dive in. Also, real quick, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, like, comment. These solo pods, they tend to go a little bit faster, I think, than other ones. So this will probably be a shorter episode. Because I don't have people to bounce ideas off of. There isn't the back and forth. There isn't the debates, the arguments. So everything I say is correct. And if you disagree with it, that's where we can debate in the comments. So go to the comment section and we'll debate back and forth there as well. All right. Number one, first round, pick 25. They stay at 25. By the way, the CBS article, I'm going to forget the name. So I want to make sure I pull it. The actual author of the article, or NFL analyst, might want to call him. I'm not familiar with this guy, so I don't know how long he's been doing this, but it's Josh Edwards with CBS Sports. Again, I'm struggling with this one, guys, and you'll see more later. I will say this first pick, boom, right off the bat, I'm perfectly okay with it. Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson. He fits the Dennis Allen mold, but he brings both a run-stopping capability and a pass rush capability. I've been saying it for a while. His 2024 film is better than his 2025 film. So there is some frustration, some concern there. But this guy is a guy who I think can make an immediate impact for this team, would jump into that rotation, probably on that second rotation right away as a rookie, and make that impact and push, Gervon Dexter for playing time, probably because he'd be more of a 3 technique in this defense. He can also play a one technique if he needs to. A nose tackle, if you want to say, because Dennis Allen likes those two smaller type of defensive tackles penetrating, where the defensive ends kind of maintain that outside presence and just bring pressure from the outside. I like the pick. He's my top defensive tackle in this draft. I will say Caden McDonald is very close to him for me. I just don't think Caden McDonald meets the criteria that Dennis Allen likes in his defensive tackles. He hasn't shown that pass rush upside. I do think he is a better pass rusher than people give him credit for. The way that he wreaks havoc. Thank you. Can't speak. Wreaks havoc and is able to, push offensive linemen backwards and kind of collapse that pocket from the middle, I think is important. Is just as important as actually getting to the quarterback, because it allows his teammates to make that rush and kind of just crash. But I don't think Dennis Allen is going to go for him. I will say, if we weren't concerned about player profiles and who's going to fit what, I would probably be pounding the table for Caden McDonald over Peter Woods, just because of the run stopping ability that he brings is better than Woods. But Woods is a serviceable run stopping defensive tackle. And again, a guy who's got a good, his jump off the ball is fast. He has good pass rush moves. He's able to get through gaps and get to the quarterback. Also tackles for loss. Again, I think this pick is fine. I'm not gonna get all over this guy at CBS for this pick. I think it is a solid first round pick that makes sense. Really quick, you know what I didn't think about doing? Let me just kind of glance here. Who is available around that time that was still on the board, right? Okay, CJ Allen went next. I don't think that makes much sense for them. Casey Concepcion, the receiver out of Texas A&M, don't think that makes as much sense. Caleb Banks, look, I'm not high on him in regards to the fact that he's probably just a very similar player to Gervon Dexter, slightly better off the ball, but he's had a lot of foot issues, so that concerns me. Look, I know I've been pushing corner, right, or some type of defensive back here for the pick at number 25. Colton Hood went at pick 29. I would love that option as well. I'm a big Colton Hood fan. I know a lot of people are big on Zion Young. They had Zion Young going 30th to Miami Dolphins. So would you prefer Peter Woods at defensive tackle, or would you prefer Zion Young, who's got some off the field issues, might not make sense for the Chicago Bears? We know how they kind of put that out there as a criteria for them, right? But his game makes sense, and it does fit the Dennis Allen scheme. I personally don't have as high of a grade on him to put him at that 25 spot, but if they were able to trade back, I'd be perfectly okay with that as well. All right, I think we talked enough about these guys. Let's move on to the second round. This is where I get frustrated. This is where I see these connections that just don't make sense to me. So R. Mason Thomas, look, he brings a lot of pass rush upside. Played at Oklahoma. A lot of people love his film. I don't dislike his film whatsoever. The problem that I have is I don't think Dennis Allen wants a guy like this. He's a very undersized defensive end, someone who'd probably be better off, with his hand off the ball versus on the ground. It doesn't make sense here. You want to get a defensive end? I understand it. It makes complete sense. For me, if you're going to go with the Gabe Akis here, if he was available at 57, I didn't look to see if he was. I'm going to try to see if I can figure that out here as well. If you were able to, go after, no, Gabe Akis went 50th, so he was not available. Dennis Sutton, the edge out of Penn State, is another guy to consider. He actually went 52. So I think this is maybe the Bears reaching, you know what, at 58. Again, an undersized guy, a little bit leaner guy, but I think fits the system better is Malachi Lawrence out of UCF. He has shot up draft boards. I think in the beginning when we first started doing this, he was going like the 4th, 5th round in a lot of these mock draft simulators. He is now being seen as a 2nd, 3rd round pick easily. I would definitely take Lawrence over R. Mason Thomas, even though I do have R. Mason Thomas ranked higher. I just think when you're trying to mock these, do these mock drafts, you got to consider everything. And you want to be as realistic as possible. And I just don't think Mason Thomas fits what Dennis Allen wants. So it doesn't make sense to me. At pick 60, they go with A.J. Halsey. I don't hate this pick. A.J. Halsey is a guy who, he has some versatility to him, but kind of reminds me of a Gervon, or I'm sorry, gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Brisker, right? Kind of reminds me of Brisker all of a sudden. Like you're putting in a guy that has very similar concept. He's not tall, but he's bigger. He's like 220 pounds, if I'm remembering off the top of my head, because I don't have my notes in front of me. But he's the guy who's going to come down in the box. He's going to hit. He can play that robber role and just kind of like sit back and cover in zone and watch the quarterback, read the quarterback come down. But he doesn't have that hip fluidity to take on, guys specifically in this conference, right? Or in this division where you're going against guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? Who's a guy who's a little bit shifty. He doesn't have that hip fluidity to get around and cover and mirror in the same way that I think some of these other safeties do. That said, you're waiting until pick 60 to take a safety. I think the value is there here with Halsey. And again, I'm not as upset about this at all as I am the R. Mason Thomas pick. But yeah, just, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me as far as the type of safety that Dennis Allen is going to want. He wants guys that are, interchangeable, guys who can play free safety and in the box. Guys who, they can play quarters and you basically have, you're covering each side of the field and you don't know who's going to be playing what position. And they do some masking and disguising so that, guys can come up, guys can play back. You're just not supposed to know what's happening. And I feel like Halsey kind of has a little bit of limitations in that regard. So again, don't hate it. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think Halsey would be an okay pick here. The value is fine. I just think that there might be better options. To me, like a Jalen Kilgore, if you can get him in the 3rd round, that makes way more sense to me than Halsey here at 60 in the 2nd. All right. I applaud the CBS writer who I'm already blanking on his name, Josh Edwards. I applaud him for taking Connor Lew here in the 3rd round. I have all of my centers. Look, the Chicago Bears have been doing a ton of due diligence on the center position, right? A ton of due diligence, bringing guys in, multiple visits. I get it. Center is going to be a very important need. I do think that they attack the position at some point in this draft. I have Sam Heck out of Kansas State as my top center in this draft class. That said, Connor Lew would be my top one if I could get medicals. And obviously I'm not going to get medicals, right? Like he had an ACL tear. So how is he medically fit for the 2026 season? Is he good to go? I think he's going to fit this. He would fit the scheme very well in the Ben Johnson offense. I think both him and Sam Heck would fit this offense very well, but both of their abilities in the run and the pass game, I think would play out really well. But I do think Connor Lew is the better prospect as long as the medicals come back 100% clear. So getting him here in the 3rd round, again, I don't have a center graded higher than a 3rd round pick. This would be absolutely fantastic. I am on board with this. Congratulations. I am good with 2 out of your 4 picks so far. Moving on to the 4th round. Josh Cameron, wide receiver out of Baylor. Again, I'm not understanding the concept here of where this fits Ben Johnson's mentality, right? Like if you think about the receivers that were up in Detroit, and I know he didn't have like full on control of what was happening from a roster standpoint, but he had to have, some voice in the matter. And when I look at this, it's like, look, Josh Cameron is a big guy. Like, I think he's either 6'3" or 6'4", 220 plus pounds. He's the type of guy that can just go up and get the ball, right? Like, I think he only had 7 drops throughout all of college, which is very, very good. But I will tell you, if you look at drop percentage in college, it doesn't really correlate necessarily to the NFL. For example, Roma Odunze, his drop percentage was very low in college at Washington, but as we all know, he's had some drop issues at the NFL level, right? So it doesn't always correlate, but I will say if you're looking for a wide receiver 3 who you just want to put in red zone packages, this is the guy, right? He had 9 touchdowns in 2025, 10 touchdowns in 2024. Just a guy you could throw the fade in the corner and just boom, he's going to go up and get it over these guys who are like, 5'10", 5'11", maybe even 6 feet tall. He just goes up and gets it. And that does sound like something maybe the Bears do need with all of the drops that we saw at wide receiver last year. But I just struggle because he doesn't have a lot of his route tree is limited. He doesn't have very fluid movement. His speed, like he's not a fast guy either, right? So like I want to say off the top of my head, he was running in the mid 4.6s. He doesn't have breakaway speed. Even his 10-yard split wasn't very fast. His ability to get press corners off of him at the line of scrimmage can be very difficult at times because his movements are very predictable. So I struggle with this. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me here. I'd rather see a guy who maybe would, be able to, bring something else to the table, like a Jeremiah Branch. And I don't even know if he would fall here in the 4th round, but like a Jeremiah Branch, someone with a lot of speed, but, can bring a lot to the return game. You get the ball in his hands and he's going to bring in yak. That said, Cameron does have yak ability only in the sense that he's big, bruising type guy who can just take the ball and like boom, boom, boom. Like guys are going to bounce off of him at times. So there is, if you can find a way to get him in open space and you scheme him open, that probably will work. I just struggle with guys who can't create their own separation. And I don't think Cameron's going to create his own separation. I think he's going to be more of like an Allen Robinson type who didn't have a lot of separation, but was just able to go up, get the ball and take it away. Guys like that can exist in this league. I just don't think it fits the Ben Johnson mentality. So again, sorry, Josh Edwards. I think your pick here just doesn't make sense. All right, let's move on to the last 2 picks. Lorenzo Styles, DB out of Ohio State. Jeremiah Wright, offensive lineman. To me, an interior offensive lineman out of Auburn. Lorenzo Styles is the brother to Sonny Styles. It is insane how different these two are. Sonny Styles is probably a top 10, top 15 pick in this draft. Lorenzo Styles is probably at best a 6th round pick, possibly a UDFA. I'm obviously fine with these picks. I call 7th round picks dart throws for sure. 5th round and lower to me are dart throws. So Lorenzo Styles, I have no problem with this pick. He actually is a converted wide receiver. I want to say it was Notre Dame that he played at off the top of my head. I should know this as a Notre Dame fan, but he went to Ohio State and converted to a corner. And look, he's been doing a really good job as far as like the growth that he's had from being a wide receiver and moving into that defensive back role. I could see him being maybe a safety option for them or just a flex guy. Has a lot of speed. Okay, a lot of speed. He's extremely fast, but he's not fluid. Struggles to mirror guys. As a former wide receiver, he struggles to, figure out the tells of the wide receiver and maybe jump routes. Those things just don't seem to happen enough. But if you want a developmental guy you can toss on the practice squad and who can potentially push to be a special teams guy with his speed, that's Lorenzo Styles. Perfectly okay with that. And then Jeremiah Wright, he's just an interior offensive lineman, guard for me, 33-inch arms. But he's a mauler. He's a guy who likes to hit people. Isn't doesn't have the best footwork. These are why these guys are dropping this far. Again, 6th round at best, probably a UDFA 7th round pick in this draft class. So get some offensive line depth. Perfectly okay with that here as well. All right. Rumors. Dexter Lawrence. Does it make sense? Does it make sense to get Dexter Lawrence? Okay, so look, there are plenty of rumors going on right now of the fact that he's requested a trade. On top of that, there's rumors that the Chicago Bears are one of the teams that might have been calling and being interested. I don't know if that's true. That's, came from like an aggregator. So half the time that crap means nothing. But the general consensus from a legit source basically is saying that it's probably going to take a late 1st round pick at minimum to make this happen. Is a late 1st round pick going to be enough? If it is, would you rather have a guy who you don't know is going to succeed in the NFL like Peter Woods at 25? Or would you rather get a guy like Dexter Lawrence who does have some, they're saying work ethic issues possibly, but has been very dominant, does not fit the mold that Dennis Allen likes. So that part has me a little bit questioning. The difference is Dexter Lawrence is kind of like one of those unicorn types, right? Like he is 6'4", 330, 340 pounds, right? And that's where the work ethic came in. Like if he's not able to get down to that 330-ish range, where maybe he was playing before, or maybe he was at 340 and he's pushing 350 now. Like, yeah, you got to get him healthy. You got to get, and maybe he doesn't clear medicals and the trade doesn't even happen. But it makes sense to me. If you're only giving up 25, go get Dexter Lawrence. That's 100% fine. You are getting a player that is going to immediately impact this team, that is opened the window for a Super Bowl run. Okay. That window was opened in 2025. It remains open in 2026. Dexter Lawrence opens that window a little bit more, in my opinion, right? If it's only the 25th overall pick, 100%, I am on board with that. Here's an article from SI, and they compared it to the fact that, the Cowboys made a trade for Quinnen Williams, right, out of the Jets, right? And that draft package or trade package was a 2027 1st round pick, a 2026 2nd round pick, and then defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. Okay. So what they're projecting, it could be an option here with Dexter Lawrence not being quite at the same level as Williams, but it would be, by the way, the author of this article, so I can give him credit, is Pete Martuniak. I know he's big on Twitter for the Chicago Bears fans out there as well. But his projection or trade package that he put out there was the 25th pick in this draft, right, in 2026, a 3rd round pick in 2027, and Gervon Dexter. Okay. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that that trade package makes sense? A 1st and a 3rd plus a player who is a starting rotational player. I think I have problems with it just based off of the off-the-field rumors that have taken place, the conditioning concerns. I think that's a little too much for me. If you're able to do the 25th pick plus Gervon, I'm okay with that necessarily, and I'm a big Dexter fan, as you guys all know. I don't know. It just seems like a lot to give up 2 picks and a player for a guy who has not lived up to the expectations of Williams, and maybe if it's a fourth round pick instead of a 3rd, I'd be more on board. Even though I know, look, Ryan Poles has had a horrible draft history with 3rd round picks, so maybe it doesn't even matter. But let us know in the comments. What do you guys think, chat? Do you guys think that you would make that trade? Are you more inclined to make that deal, or would you prefer to maybe go get Caden McDonald, who could be the next Dexter Lawrence. I don't know. Personally, I would just go take Caden McDonald. That's how good Caden McDonald, I think, could be in the NFL, a young player who still has a lot of potential. So, yeah, I'm going to backtrack. If you're willing to go after a guy like Dexter Lawrence and you're going to give up the 25th pick and more, personally, I think I'm going to take a chance on Caden McDonald becoming the next Dexter Lawrence, becoming the next Quinnen Williams, and a guy who I just absolutely love his film. So that's all I got, guys. Again, we'll keep churning out some content. I know it's been a little bit lacking over the last little bit. I have put together my big board of 75 players has now been put together. I have a separate Bears board that have gotten to almost pick 50, which is definitely different than my big board. So we'll be presenting that. We're going to be doing some dueling mock drafts pretty soon. So I know we did that last year. So again, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you stick around. Plenty of Bears content to go. As always, I'm Rob Schwartz, Bear Goggles On. Have a good night. Bear down. Claws up.